Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining in. I hope my voice is clear. If not, we do have backup options, but we tested it in the morning, so I think we are good. This event is certainly on Zoom for those who registered, and we are also live on YouTube Live. In case there's anyone you would like to send the message to, please do that. We still have about 2.5 hours. We're just starting the day. The intention would be to try and have maximum visibility, maximum coverage, and get the most out of this great occasion. So thank you very much, everyone. And to start with, normally we start our events with the National Anthem. And even more so this one, it's celebrating India Business Continuity Day. I think it's a great occasion. We do want to remember it, commemorate it, and kind of take the memory forward for a long time. So I myself am going to stand. I'm going to request everyone to stand. I'm going to request my team, Garima, please bring up the National Anthem. And once the National Anthem finishes, we'll then start the agenda for the day. Thank you.
Jana Mana Adhinayak Jaya He Bharat Bhagya Vidhata Punjab Sindh Gujarat Maratha Dravida Utkala Vanga Vindhya Himachala Yamuna Ganga Uchchala Jaladhi Taranga तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे.
Thank you, everyone. That normally gives me the goosebumps. It's a nice way to start the day. So again, thanks very much for joining in today. We have, I think, 2.5 hours of some insightful discussions and some absolutely distinguished personalities. So very lucky to have that here. The key driver for this session is, of course, the fact that the PM said about 2 years ago in April that ministries must implement business continuity. Thank you, Arvi. You will recognize that these came from you yesterday. So I thought I'll just play them. So it's the PM obviously asking ministers to prepare business continuity plans. When I was in my youth, there used to be this program, Yes, Minister, and normally somewhere they would say, thank you, Prime Minister. And I'm saying exactly that. Thank you, Prime Minister, for actually flagging this off. I like this. This is a high-level BIA. And if you look at the bottom, each ministry has to identify 10 key moves and 10 priority focus areas for action. That's written in the synopsis on the bottom. Hey, I mean, kind of, this is an intuitive, a professional BIA, but it is a BIA, identify the focus area. So that's interesting. This is, again, from one of the cuttings. It's possibly the PM rolling out this expectation. And there's another one on the same topic with a whole bunch of people and, of course, Mr. Rajnath Singh and others, social distancing. So we'll first go straight into the video by the Secretary, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, Shri Rajesh Varma. He has a small address to start off with. And I'm bringing up the video now. So this is Shri Rajesh Varma, Secretary, Ministry of Corporate Affairs. And the Ministry of Corporate Affairs is the entity that regulates corporates. So just the right person and just the right forum to address us.
Good morning, everyone. At the outset, I would like to thank Continuity and Resilience for inviting me to deliver the address on the pertinent issue of business continuity. The world is more globalized and integrated today than ever before. As per the IMF figures released recently, India, with 8.2% GDP growth rate, will be the fastest growing economy in the world in 2022. The world's eyes are on us. With such huge prospects, it is expected that the companies in India should also be able to implement and demonstrate state-of-the-art business continuity, which is an integral part of corporate governance. India itself is making a determined push for Atmanirbhar Bharat. All organizations in any sector whatsoever must have the capability to continue their businesses at all times, come what may. Further, the prevalent climate crisis and the pandemic, with all its unforeseen and unparalleled consequences, has highlighted the importance of sustainable and resilient business models to support the economic recovery strategies of companies. As the businesses navigate through these changes, and ESG factors, along with insightful reporting, can help them in making informed investment decisions. For robust organizational resilience and business continuity planning, an active board participation is expected. The board must ensure that it incorporates factors such as employee and community safety and well-being into their continuity plans. Board members must be able to ensure integration of business continuity plans into the organization's business and risk strategies, and thus set the tone from the top. COVID had a significant impact on a broad array of businesses. Some sectors were taken quite aback. A slew of measures were taken by the Government of India during the pandemic across various sectors of the economy to ensure business continuity. These included definition of micro, small and medium enterprises was revised by raising the investment limit. An additional criteria of turnover was also introduced. The definition of small companies has also been amended. Limits of paid up capital and turnover. Under the emergency credit line guarantee scheme, rupees 3 lakh crore in the form of collateral-free automatic loans for businesses including MSMEs was provided. A provision was also made under the credit guarantee scheme for rupees 20,000 crore subordinate debt intended to support stressed MSMEs. The fund of funds for the startups was set up with a corpus of rupees 10,000 crore to infuse 50,000 crore equity in MSMEs. An outlay of rupees 1.97 lakh crore was made in the Union Budget 2021-22 for production-linked incentive scheme for 13 key sectors for a period of 5 years starting from fiscal 21-22. Fast-track process for mergers was allowed for certain class of companies under the Companies Act. Decriminalization of certain offences under the Companies Act, which were procedural and technical in nature, was done. Minimum threshold to initiate insolvency proceedings was raised from rupees 1 lakh to rupees 1 crore. Initiation of insolvency proceedings were suspended under IBC for any default arising between 25th March 2020 and 24th March 2021. A pre-packaged insolvency resolution process, PPIRP, for MSME corporate debtors has been introduced. Invest India, which is the National Investment Promotion and Facilitation Agency, launched the Invest India Business Community Platform to help businesses and investors get real-time updates on India's active response to COVID-19. The Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology issued certain guidelines describing disaster recovery planning and detailing out the considerations and best practices which should be followed to mitigate the risk of system and service unavailability to enhance the business continuity. At the end, I would like to emphasize that while the pandemic-related disruptions have almost eased, new types of disruptions may emerge in future. A structured response plan to deal with such situations is vital for strengthening an organization's resilience. The best way for the companies to successfully navigate these new threat disruptions is by implementing a holistic and proactive business continuity approach. I wish you all the best in this conference and hope that you are all inspired to take your business continuity efforts to even greater heights. Jai Hind.
Well, that was the Secretary, Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Some very key statements. Business continuity must be done. It's a board responsibility. New types of disruptions will emerge. And what you need to do, therefore, is be prepared with the holistic business continuity plan. So thanks very much for the secretary. He had to be in Ahmedabad today, unfortunately, so there was a clash, but he was very kind enough to give us this video address. I hope the message is loud and clear. And talking about board responsibilities and talking about board criticalities, what better way to start than actually the chairman and managing director of one of the largest public sector entities in the country, BHEL, Bharat Heavy Electricals. Very, very honored to have someone of the stature of Dr. Nalin Singhal be willing to spend his time with us. What more testament can you make about something like this being important than a CMD coming in on his own on an event like this? So there is this feeling that business continuity is only for certain sectors, financial industry, telecom, it's the MNCs that do it. No, everyone needs to do it. That's what the secretary said. And it seems that a lot of people are doing it. So there's a great inspirational message there. So with that, Dr. Nalin Singhal, if you can please bring on your camera, please.
Good morning. Thank you, Dheeraj. Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely. Loud and clear.
And can you see me?
Yes, I can see you too.
Thank you. So, yeah. So thank you for inviting me for this event. Continuity, business continuity, I think is something which is important for all of us, irrespective of size, industry, wherever we are. And it's, you know, in one sense, life goes on. So that is continuity. If you look at it practically, if you take care of the people, they take care of you, they take care of the organization. When COVID hit us, you know, it was something which nobody could have planned for, imagined, any number of, you know, whatever we may say of board level plans or anything else could be talked about. But it was a situation where, yes, people were initially didn't know what to do. But then everyone came back pretty soon. You know, forming self-help groups, teams, rapid action teams within each. We have huge townships, you know. So how do you implement, ensure that all the lockdown implementation, yet people continue. So provisions, medicines, sanitization, whatever, all those. So we had across the organization, you know, and then so really what we needed to do was support them, encourage them, and provide them whatever sort of, you know, a forum for being able to raise the issues that they wanted, they felt were required to be taken up. So the initial phase was just how to bring life back to normal.
Right.
The second phase, then how to start work back. You know, once people are taken care of, now you have to come back to the work bit. And that is where technology came in. So we had actually just a couple of months before that, we had started a rollout of e-office across the organization. You know, so there was a stage where you used to say a file coming from one end of the country, a physical file has come and it's got lost somewhere, and you know, stories 3 months, people are saying,
You did it just in time. Perfect timing.
So actually you are right. Actually, this gave us the opportunity to say, paper files are over. From tomorrow, we are switching over to e-office. And virtually within a week, the entire organization was on e-office. And then our IT teams put together, you know, the VPNs, antivirus, for work from home, enabling work from home. And that entire cybersecurity center working 24/7, network penetration testing, all those issues were put together. At the same time, we are a manufacturing organization and project organization. So you can't manufacture from home or do a project execution from home. So this was an opportunity to train people who were, you know, who could not be used anywhere else. So we had a huge rollout of online training programs. At the project sites, we had, of course, you know, the first instance, you had to, you know, provide food and provisions to all we had, you know, 5,000, 10,000 labor at each, 5,000 people at each site, that sort of a thing. So how to keep them there and keep them happy, keep them isolated, and wherever local administration could permit to carry on with the work. So those were the efforts which went on. Of course, then, you know, there were places where we had to evacuate people from one of the international sites. We had to run charter flights. We had to do all sorts of things had to be done. But then the response of the people was, you know, one of our units came up with a fumigation machine which they used for themselves. Then it moved on to other units. Then even the municipal corporations asked, some of them came to know even they were asking for it.
You
So
have your in-house R&D.
In-house development, yes, absolutely, absolutely. So that's the way the thing went. Then video inspections. There were a lot of material dispatches had to happen. It was March, which went into April, but then people couldn't come for inspections. So video inspections started.
Right.
So it's so that was the first phase, and in the second phase, of course, which hit very hard, very fast, very rapidly. But then people were better prepared, I think. But that was the stage where they came together for supporting the society at large, the community at large. So we had oxygen plants in some of our oxygen manufacturing plants in some of our units, and which were of course internally, they were piping oxygen inside the unit for supply. But then within days they put together cylinder filling capacities.
Wow.
And our Haridwar plant filled up about Haridwar and Bhopal. Between them did about 80,000 cylinders in that period of almost a month. So they were doing, Haridwar was doing about 3,500 cylinders a day. The logistics of that, they were not equipped to do it, but they did it.
Yeah.
And
they saved a lot of lives. You would have saved a lot of lives. It was a really bad time.
Yes, but BHEL Haridwar supported almost the entire Western UP, Uttarakhand, and even parts of NCR. And
Wow.
BHEL Bhopal supported the entire Bhopal city. So that was the sort of thing that happened. So I mean, it's ultimately, it's all about, to my mind, it's all about people.
And during that whole thing, from what I understand, you did amazingly well, even as a manufacturing company, despite all of these other things. These were all, I'd say, maybe means to an end and social service, but even the core business, from what I understand, you kind of managed that pretty well. So absolutely amazing.
So that was, of course, that came back, as I said, the first wave hit us hard, so it took time to come back. The second phase, so even in that, after in the second quarter, we were back on the feet, and our manufacturing units were going, our sites were going, they started picking up. Of course, we had a number of other challenges, pre-COVID challenges also, which we were dealing with, the economic situation. We were a thermal, power, essentially thermal power company, and we had to switch over to being an engineering company because thermal power was in the decline. Then there were legacy issues. So multiple issues hit us at the same time, but I must say that the team worked together and it did it pretty successfully. So today we see that we are past a lot of the issues and we are back on track again.
Amazing. Absolutely fantastic. Thanks so much, Dr. Singhal. I have a couple of questions, but I just want to check in case there is anyone on the chat line who kind of has a question, just send it in right now. I'd actually say, Dr. Singhal, that you've probably ended the pandemic much stronger than you were when you went in, as you kind of accelerated the initiatives. A lot of the innovations are permanent and there to stay. And while it wasn't a great situation, it was quite painful for everyone and unfortunate. But I guess given that it happened, possibly the BHL that you see now is maybe much more robust and prepared than perhaps what it was earlier.
Certainly. I mean, as I said, there was a lot of legacy issues which we're dealing with, and in this period we have largely dealt with them. So I think this new year should essentially show a lot of change. The groundwork, a lot of groundwork has got done,
right?
And we are ready to go for it.
Sometimes I joke when I do my courses that often in business continuity, you start up with the plan B, but at some stage you realize that the plan B is actually better than the plan A. And in the whole process of trying to do more with less, what does BCM do? BCM says, if something's not available, find a better way to do it. So actually you do more with less, you become more efficient. And then you say, this is a better solution. Let me discard my legacy solution and let me start doing this. So ultimately, it's not just for a rainy day. It actually even helps you in the BAU, I hope.
Necessity is the mother of invention, as they say.
Exactly. There is a question for you. Thank you, Samrat. This is Samrat Chaudhary from kind of CCIL. How did you handle mental health of employees during the pandemic? Great question. Thank you, Samrat.
So you see, it became a much bigger issue in the second phase, the second wave, because of the way it hit and because of the lives we started losing. So that was the time when people really went out and, counseling, talking to people. The support groups, they did a lot of work. And then as an organization, we said, look, we must come out with a support scheme. So we came out very quickly. We came out with a policy to support families of people who had unfortunately succumbed in this time. So I think that's how essentially it was a question of saying that yes, we are there and there are people to look after you. So we'll get through this.
Right. Just kind of just the mental comfort that we are all in this together and we need not worry. Just get on and do the best you
So
can.
they were professionals. So we have professionals across the organization as well. So a lot of that professional counseling was also required. All that happened.
Right. Right. Well, Dr. Singhal, again, thank you so much. It was perfect timing that you came on right after the secretary saying that kind of this is a board level responsibility must be taken seriously from the top. And what better example than you coming on right after that? I was about to wind up, but there are two quick questions. So this is a question, how did COVID impact the culture at BHEL? Question from Kush Srivastava. We'll take that one, and the others I think we may not have time for, but we'll take Kush's question. How did COVID impact the culture at BHEL?
Well, that's an interesting one. So you see, as a PSU, there is always this thing. You have people who would have a sense to. I think what they're trying to aim at is yes, people are there who would say that look, how can I do anything? There's too much danger, too many dangers out there. So, but that was the time when you see, we were all working from office. We were while work from home policies were there, but the senior management was all in office. Right from mid-April, I think 23rd April when the first thing opened. After that, right through. So it was one of the changes was the ability to remotely work, which has happened to everyone. But at the same time, we were actually, the need to be there at the spot also. So our senior management was traveling all through. We were there at the sites, at the units, visible, so that people know that work has to go on. So that sense of work has to go on, life has to go on, and this is a new normal, as everyone said. Yes.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dr. Singhal. I think we're out of time. There are a few more questions. Apologies to RV and a few others, even one from Akhil. So I think we have a timeline, and I know you have to go elsewhere, Dr. Singhal. So thanks very much. Really appreciate, and you really helped us start this session on a great note. Thanks very much. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Take care. Thanks a lot. Harsha, I will just shortly bring you on.
Thank you, Dheeraj, and welcome everybody for the show, which we are all engaging. Now we are going to have a special session from Sumnesh Joshi. I would just like to say the S of Sumnesh stands for strategy, and it's all about the digital India resilience that he's going to talk to all of us. So over to you, Sumnesh, for giving us insights as to how India is going to be resilient with business continuity practices, with what you want to tell us about the zeros and ones that we are going towards. Thanks.
So, again, once again, thank you very much. And so, see, already I heard Mr. Varma, Secretary, Minister of Corporate Affairs, and Mr. Singhal. So, of course, the business continuity management is now one of the main thing that every organization has to follow all the steps. See, my perspective from the digital India that Government of India is moving towards achieving this digital India mission and making a $1 trillion digital economy. So lots of things are happening on the cloud, and many of the services, government services and the public sector services or private services are coming on the net, and people are consuming all across the nook and corner of the country. So the idea is that we have to enable the last mile. So all the service we have to deliver at the last mile, and proactive approach we are working that, okay, to whom to give the benefit and to whom to tap. So lots of things are happening, and everyone has seen the disruption in the fintech sector in the form of the UPI, now WhatsApp, Google Pay. So all are working on this payment platform. And on the UPI also, the foundation ID is the Aadhaar I'm working. So using this foundation ID, now many services that we are giving in the government, and maybe many of you are aware, the public distribution system, that is the one ration card and one nation. And then e-shram, we are, all the unorganized labor sector is getting enrolled in the database, and all scholarship and social assistance pension schemes. So lots of government schemes, around 900 odd schemes are using the Aadhaar as a foundation ID. So why I'm just sharing all this data, that the scale is huge, with 130 crore Aadhaar number holders and many of the schemes using the digital platform for delivery of the services. Every day we are doing 6 crore Aadhaar authentication and 1 crore electronic KYC. So an expectation has been increased in the ecosystem. Maybe gone are the days when 9.6 kbps internet. Now it's Mbps and 100 Mbps and 200 Mbps. And expectation is really grown, and people want service at the instance. No one wants that slightly disruption in the service. So all the organization and entities are working towards business continuity, and in the digital IT system, it is really very critical thing. And for that, all experts are here, which are going to discuss that how one can ensure that business continuity in the system itself. See, Aadhaar, because giving the authentication continuously, so we have the business continuity in place, that we have the active sort of configuration in the authentication. And so idea is, with our learning, that any entity which is going to start any new product, so one has to work on the fundamentals, the architecture that they are going to design. They have to give much time on that and ensure that in future the business continuity will be an inherent part of the entire architecture, along with the security as well as the privacy. And so there should not be any risk in the architecture. The fundamental should be strong. Maybe in future the technology may get changed, but the basic core architecture should remain same to ensure the business continuity. So we have in Aadhaar, for example, we have a commodity server we are using, and open source we are using. So there's no much vendor lock-in, and in the horizontal expansion we can do without getting the existing services disrupted. So many things we are doing to take care of the business continuity. And another area that I would like to bring, that there are many services which are very critical. So we can't afford that the connectivity should go out. So in Aadhaar, we have come up with a product also. Maybe sometimes, whenever we are doing the online verification to deliver any service, but suppose that link is broken, so what to do? So now in Aadhaar, we have another product that we called it offline validation, or one can use the digitally signed XML file, that is one can download and store with them, or maybe the Aadhaar letter or the PVC card that we are issuing, we are giving a QR code. So one can validate, even internet is not there, for time being one can validate that that is digitally signed, it's tamper proof. So it's a kind of solution, so it will be very helpful. And some critical things that we have to ensure the identity of a beneficiary, but there is a connectivity in case of the emergency or the criticality. So all these things that we are doing. Another thing that you are going to see in the ecosystem that is going to disrupt the market, the face authentication. Now the face authentication is the new thing that is coming. We have tested it and we have started, and this face authentication, so it will come in all the services. So the scale we are growing, so we have to ensure not only from the UIDI itself, but all the entities which are using these services, that business continuity will remain in place. So I will just take the clue from what Mr. Shingal also said, that it's not only the IT sector, because the entire manufacturing sector, maybe IT is also there, but all the inventory management and the the vertical integration, everything is coming on the business continuity. And Aadhaar as a foundational ID, maybe I don't know in the audience many entities that they are going to consume this foundational ID. So my request is, whatever design you are going to do along with the UID system, please make this business continuity as an integral part of the entire architecture. So, and
Good.
last one that maybe yesterday you have read that government has started the ONDC, the Open Network Digital Commerce. The scale that the government of India is working with ONDC, so many now, the vendors will come and they start transacting and selling their product. So thank you very much for hearing me out. So Harsha, you would like to ask anything?
Yes, Somnesh. As you spoke about the strategic movement of the country towards digital India and providing Aadhaar for the Aadhaar. So I have three questions to ask
Yeah,
you. I will
please.
just ask you. The first one is, do you feel enterprise risk management is something that needs to get integrated inside the Digital India program? Number one. Number two, did you have any outages during the pandemic across for networks and data breaches? And number three is, how do you see the future of enabling continuity for people at the same time the platform across India?
So yeah, thank you, Harsha. So the first question, of course, I think all are in agreement, because the kind of scale now we are having, all across, and we are going to have a $1 trillion digital economy, and so many things will come. So one has to inbuild this business continuity in the enterprise, the design that maybe is the need of the hour. And the second question, in the pandemic, see, we have seen, even the surge in the authentication, and we were able to serve. And there is no instance that all of a sudden the requests have increased and system is down. We are able to provide the services in the pandemic, and because everything was shut, but banks have used this Aadhaar-enabled payment system, micro ATMs, for delivery of the cash and transaction in the remotest area of the country. So that was a fantastic, and we felt really, really good that in that time, Aadhaar has served the people of our country. And we, so that's why I shared my view that whenever we design, we have to see, the planning should be perfect. Because right now we are doing 6 crore authentication per day, but we have the capacity of 10 crore authentication per day. So we have to see in future then what will happen after 5 years, what will happen after 10 years. So we have to augment, and it's that's why I shared the horizontal scaling. So the system should be that we can continuously build the system without disturbing the existing services. And third one, sorry, I forgot what was the third question that you
The
asked.
third one was about continuously enabling resilience for us as individuals and for the platform for Digital India.
Yeah, so it's a in Digital India, of course, all the platforms, because the government of India is now having this platform approach. So one is UPI, one is Aadhaar, now this ONDC. So many platforms are coming, and NIC giving all the government services all across the country. Around 900 schemes are working, and they are our Aadhaar Authentication User Agency. So the system we have built in such a manner that there should not be any outage, and the system, service delivery should be effective and the convenient manner. And sometimes, suppose whenever we require any maintenance sort of thing, so that we have to see that, okay, in which hour and with in the planned manner with the notification. So that sort of thing for certain kind of services we do, but the kind of services we are giving typical in the fintech or in the health sector, etc. That has to be on the continuous basis.
Okay, one last question for you, Omnesh, because
Yeah.
before we close on this, uh, there is a lot of disruption that is happening between Russia and Ukraine, and there are causes for cyber attacks all across the place. How are we prepared as a country, not only from the application security point of view, but it's also about data leakages and also enabling continuity in case there is something going wrong?
Yeah, so this is a good question. So maybe I know about our Aadhaar ecosystem, so I can't comment. So the rest of the thing that how everyone is doing, but in Aadhaar, right from the inception, the threat was there, and we are continuously under threat, despite now this present crisis. You know, the people are trying to ensure that finding a way that how we can hack the Aadhaar system, but not a single breach we have observed. Because the best part is in our case, nothing is on the internet. You know, all the data, even the moment we perform the enrollment of a resident, capturing the biometric and the demographic, then and there it is getting encrypted, and that encrypted packet is transferred to our main CIDR, and we are processing it, and everything is on offline sort of thing. So there is no connectivity at all on the cloud, and we have not seen any single kind of breach. Maybe sometimes, you know, we are seeing on the social media the Aadhaar data has been leaked. That is some X entity has, you know, taken the data from the people and then say that this has been leaked from the Aadhaar. No, there's no leak from Aadhaar system. Maybe some entities, sometimes in the government department, sometimes they're seeing the transparency, so they put inadvertently the Aadhaar numbers on, you know, the internet. But for that also now we have a system, we are continuously scanning the internet and finding those sort of things, and that also we are taking care.
Okay, so, you know, just to follow on, and a very simple question after this, what type of a crisis management communication process you have for the citizens of the country at the same time internally when you have something getting disrupted?
Yeah, so see, internally we have a system that totally in-house system. So whatever we are doing in the planned manner, and every stakeholder in the ecosystem is aware about that. So accordingly, we sensitize all our ecosystem partners also. So there should not be any disruption from the resident point of view, because for us, the resident is of the important, otherwise what will happen in the PDS shop, right? You know, people are there and they are not getting service. No, it's not good. So we have to ensure the residents should get the services. And if anything, suppose we are finding some upgradation, so in the very night hours, we plan it, and accordingly, there is a communication inside the ecosystem and the outside the ecosystem that, okay, you do this activity in particular hours, and these 2-3 hours, please don't do it.
Okay, Somnesh, it was very nice of you to share tips for us on the iceberg for related to digital India and continuity. We would like to thank you, as much as there are many more questions, but I'll probably take them offline with you, and you can probably communicate to us. Thank you very much for being with us, and
thanks a lot.
You know, enabling the audience to understand from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so audience and everybody here, you know, as we complete this session with Somnesh Joshi to understand the strategic direction of Digital India, we are coming to the next phase of our journey today to have a small integrated panel conversation across various individuals from industry as well as the government sectors. So I'll just like to say a simple thing. The sun and the moon rise every day, and they never fail to rise. So in the same way, continuity is something that we need to have in order that our businesses continue, whatever happens. As much as the moon does take a holiday, but we have magnificent stars as the galaxy, which provide the light on that day. So there is a continuity even on that day for us. So here we have a galaxy of stars in the next panel who are going to join us. It consists of Major General Bindal. It has Commander Pradeep. It has also Colonel Zal. It also includes the MK Chandrasekharan, and it also includes these gentlemen for us for a conversation right now. So I'll request all these individuals to come on screen, please, so that everybody can engage with you. Are we all on?
Yeah, Harsha, can you hear me, please?
Yes, come. Okay, so as much as we have the panelists ready, I would like to start off with Major General Bindal to give us an oversight of the perspectives that he wants to share in this panel conversation. It is in respect to disasters and learnings of India, at the same time climate change that is enabling various impacts for the country. So over to you, General.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Harsha, for introducing me. And thank you, Mr. Dheeraj, for organizing such a good program, a timely program, because we are just recovering from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. And we have seen lows of the whole issue, which goes beyond a regional disaster or beyond a regional problem. And in that, I will like to talk about how do we relate supply chain management to business continuity when it is connected with the disasters. And in that, I will draw a lot of lessons from the COVID-19 pandemic, because now you have seen that the nature of the disasters is increasing, it is becoming diverse, and it is crossing areas which were traditionally prone to disasters to areas which were supposedly safe. And now with the latest problems of climate change coming, we don't know how big an area, what transboundary regions will be affected by each type of disasters. Now, in comparison, smaller disasters are paling in comparison to these bigger pandemics, larger area effect disasters. So we have seen that COVID-19 pandemic has become a focus for the risk management professionals and will likely remain the focus of businesses, governments, and academicians, as it has caused challenges and stresses for the enterprise risk management. And the response to the global COVID-19 pandemic is directly shaping how corporations are viewing and managing risks. And these have warranted a reappraisal of how we assess uncertainty. Traditional enterprise risk management frameworks, they suffered from shortfalls before the response to the pandemic, primarily the ability to provide tangible value, and now more than ever require a reassessment. COVID-19 had and is still in many cases severely impacted supply chains, and especially on those organizations with far-reaching ecosystems of suppliers and service providers. So going forward, predictive risk intelligence may provide more timely insight regarding rapidly evolving risks. The global pandemic has exposed risks associated with supply chain dependency, prompting swift work at many organizations to manage breakdowns with third-party providers. Challenges have been more acute for many large, complex operations with extended supply chains, where their suppliers or service providers also rely on third parties, creating a chain of fourth parties, fifth parties, and so on. For example, the supply chain ecosystem often established by the auto manufacturers, they rely on a network of providers for vehicle components, whether it be engine, drivetrain, tires, interiors, and each of these providers contracts with additional suppliers for numerous subcomponents that make up each system. So this network can grow multiple layers deep, and involve hundreds of organizations, making it difficult for a manufacturer to assess the full scope of risk arising from that extended enterprise ecosystem. Number of organizations took quick action to identify the critical third parties and determine how these suppliers were affected by the COVID outbreak, and others had difficulty in identifying providers in outer systems of the ecosystem. And this has left many organizations with unanswered questions about aftershocks of the supplier risk. So my SCM is related to the supplier related issues, the deep layers of suppliers that need to be also brought in the gambit of the enterprise risk management or for the business continuity. So even organizations that have a full list of the critical providers, they have little visibility, may have a little visibility or insight into how the suppliers are faring, the health of the workforce, the financial vitality, the information security, the data privacy, which has been exacerbated by the remote work, which was also explained by the previous speakers, or other continuity concerns. So many companies found that they could execute only fragmented and reactive risk response to supply chain disruptions as they unfolded, with little or no advanced warning of where the providers would falter on the delivery of critical services and materials. So the time horizon of our thinking has to change. And investors who are driving the corporations need to understand the potential impact of the changing climate to their business models. And it has to be done over a longitudinal time limit and not for a short duration. For example, today, with higher temperatures in India, with higher night temperatures, which are much more dangerous in India, the climate model risk assessment is changing. It is going to affect the crop pattern. It is going to affect our rainy seasons. It is going to affect the nutritional value of the crop or any other thing which is coming out. Even flowers, even the medicinal plants. So everyone needs to look at these types of new risks which are coming up in a much broader way. So it is very important that we need to reduce the vulnerability of the shops by reporting on the risk trends which are growing or increasing in threat, increased use of various scenario analysis, and prioritize focus on contingency measures. And this will also help to focus on those events that matter and engage expert judgment for that, consider risk correlation and interdependency, and help assess the organizational resilience. Technology can come in a big way. Big data analysis can come in to help in a big way to provide all these in mitigating the risks due to disasters on the supply chain management and through that of the business continuity plans. So a model that encourages more direct contact with critical providers on an ongoing iterative basis may work well. Companies can also consider requiring providers to complete new questionnaires or surveys to gain more additional data. And many organizations rely extensively on third parties for specialized and core business services, technology, and scalability to meet global market demand. So disruption resulting from a global pandemic and more so in future from any different type of global disaster has brought to life the importance of having visibility and connectivity with the extended enterprise system, ecosystem, as a means of building resiliency and business community. So my point here has been that we need to look beyond our immediate suppliers and how to keep them in focus throughout and how to ensure that they are also resilient to such shocks due to various disasters is very, very important. So I have finished with my part of the talk right now, Dr. Harsha, and I'm open to questions, if any.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Major General, for your tipping insights. And let's move on to Colonel Zal Tantra, who also has insights on on logistics as well as supply chain. So your opening comments, Zal, from your side.
Okay. At the outset, I'd like to thank Dr. Harsha and Mr. Dheeraj of having me here. I have been a military logistician for the last 32 years, and I'm currently employed in a corporate assignment, but I am here in my personal capacity. I would like to give you certain insights of my background and experience which happened with the COVID-19 pandemic, and how we, at that time, being a part of the Northern Army, how we kind of went about things. In the first wave, I distinctly remember the moment the PM's address finished with regard to the lockdown. Possibly within an hour and a half, we had people together to understand of how logistics on ground level would function. You see, we have contracts with local people for fresh food and supplies, with cooperatives for issue of various products which are perishables and which had to be picked up every morning or at least thrice a week to supply our troops. Having cocooned our cantonments in totality, it was then left to the business continuity planning as well as foresight and vision of various commanders at various levels of how to integrate the new method of logistics. Not having permission being bound under the Indian Official Secret Act, but to get into specifics. But let me assure the audience and the other panel members, more so General Bindal, of whom I have been a student on many an occasion, and he is one of my gurus. I have done multiple courses with him being at the helm of NDRM. So, as a business continuity professional, the lessons learned were: think big, always question, think of contingencies, plan, test, validate, and train. Now I will come to phase 2. As the country was grappling with the second wave, which was more potent, like Dr. Singhal said, where there was an immense amount of pressure on hospitals and oxygen supply. At that point in time, this great country was also threatened with dimension which had unoccurred for the last 40-50 years, because of which there was a requirement to enhance troops levels in Ladakh. Now, at the same stage, the country is grappling with a very potent phase of the pandemic, and in enhanced force levels were required to be pumped in from the hinterland, which were COVID affected. So we had a dual challenge. Luckily, at that point of time, I got a ringside view because I was a member of the COVID crisis management group of the Northern Army, and various facets of bringing in people from the hinterland by various modes, road, rail, air, containing them through various stages of the journey. And as General Binder would stand by me, when we have people to escalate to such heights, there is a periodicity of high altitude kind of a stay at various heights where the body gets accustomed to the height, and then you move on to the next level. You just can't go into higher reaches of the Himalayas because it has a great effect on the physical health of soldiers. So, there were huge amount of lessons learned, business continuity planning, because at various stages when there were units and subunits which were being made to induct in bubbles, bubbles would be more proficient because later on IPL also adopted the same bubble technology where they would preserve their teams and not allow any external contact with people so as to avoid COVID, despite the fact that they did have certain cases. But we were successful in doing so. Side by side, we had the challenges of supplying oxygen to various places which were required, which were the assistance to the administration when it was called for. Coming closer to the most recent future, let me talk to you about the recent containment that China has done as regards Shanghai. Now, China has actually totally locked down for a large number of quantum of time one of the major ports of the world. And this has affected containerization, shipping industry, and movement of stores across supply chains to an extent that the ripples will be felt considerably by supply chains for at least 4 to 5 months, is what experts write, and is available on the open domain. Now, despite the fact that the world has experienced various waves, as you could call it, of COVID-19, yet you have an example here where a large country having a large share of outbound and inbound traffic had to actually shut down or lessen port operations to a level which was skeletal. So it allows business continuity professionals to not rest on laurels of having overcome any pandemic, but to rather think largely on a large canvas to, kind of think big and think with a broad vision, and nothing is impossible for a business continuity professional to think about. My last point, like General Bindal said about climate change, there was a recent article which I read, which said that because of this intense heat that we have had in March and now in April, as people say in the last 50 years, there hasn't been this kind of heat and hot weather building up. So it was reported that because of this, 500 million tons of wheat, which was in the ripening phase, pre-ripening phase, did not warrant this amount of atmospheric heat. And we have almost 500 million tons of loss as farmers' wheat product goes. Simultaneously, at the time when the mango trees were flowering, that required at one point of time some sunlight, and at other point of time not so intense sunlight. Unfortunately, it got warped altogether. And a lot of farmers, particularly in South India, lost a lot of deflowered or non-ripe. It did not go in from flowering stage into fruit stage. So this is again something which is going to impact supply chains going in the future, because of which business continuity professionals need to read more about climate change and the ways it will affect humanity. I finished, Harsha.
Thank you very much. So, Colonel Zal, it has been a good insight that you have given us from your experience in the military. We got some good insights about adverse weather from General Bindal. Now we'll move on to other two wonderful sessions that we have. One related with human factors of business continuity, which Commander Pradeep will engage us with. And then we'll move on to a fantastic topic about the future of business continuity aspects from Mr. Chandrasekharan, who's also there on the panel today. So let's move on to Pradeep. And Commander Pradeep, it'll be nice of you to speak about human aspects of elements in business continuity for all of us. Yes, Commander Pradeep, all yours.
Can you hear me loud and clear, Harsha?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, thank you, Harsha. And thank you, Dheeraj, for holding this. Dheeraj said he is the producer and Harsha is the director. So
thank you very much for saying this. Huh?
Yeah, okay. And I was fortunate that I joined when Mr. Sumnesh was talking. So I took some notes, and he did talk about offline validation of Aadhaar. That was really good. And also, when he's planning for Aadhaar, they have to keep in mind 10 years from now, how many transactions will be there. And also he talked about why no data is there on the cloud, and any hacking news as of now is not correct. People have picked up data from other sources, not from Aadhaar. So these were few takeaways from his lecture. Then I was really fortunate to have come in contact with Major General Bindal. So General Bindal talked very forcefully about the climate change, which is definitely impacting life, and it was also touched by Colonel Tantra. And what I liked about General Bindal's insight was he talked about third party, fourth party, fifth party apps, as if there is, a very deep network of supply chain, which any the weakest link can actually crumble the whole chain. And it was really nice to hear Colonel Tantra talking about various successful measures, including supplying oxygen. And when he talked about Shanghai, he really meant that we cannot rest on our laurels. We have to think big, and we have to think about the risks and possible mitigations. So these were the takeaways. And I was thinking, in each of these, they have talked about the human being. I mean, if the human being is in the center, a lot of these measures can get implemented very easily. And what I share with other teams, other conferences, is something like TCP, because we are used to TCP/IP. So I have a small, acronym TCP. T for the trust. C has two flavors, which is customer or client success and change. And P is for performance and passion. So if we go backwards, performance matter, because if you are into delivering any product or service, performance will matter. At what cost are you doing ethically? Those are all incidental, and they should be also part of your process. But the end recipient of the service or the goods is going to look for the performance. That is one part of when the human being is involved. And the passion. So when the human being has the passion, perhaps he or she will not feel the tediousness of the task, because she has the passion and she is performing and client is happy. So these are building blocks. They sound very, very simple. They sound like, class 3 moral science lecture, but all of us will agree that we know all these, but still we see in our workplace, we see in our life that these simple elements may make a change, and there are ample scope of improvement in these two areas. If we talk about the two C's, so one is the client success. Unless the customer success or the client success is thought about from the BCP perspective, and if I have to address the BCP professionals who are there in this seminar, I would have only one word about them: that there are BCP professionals who are hands off. That means, here is the policy. I look at the policy. I will review your plan, but that's it. You are owner and you need to execute. To them, I would say that try partnership, because there are business leaders who may not have much knowledge about how they need to look at the risk. And if you don't partner, then there will be animosity, there will be communication gaps, and there will be, business will get impacted, clients will get impacted. Whereas there may be business leaders who take risk naturally. So they will actually not give you value unless you partner. Unless you show yourself as part of the business, you will not be taken seriously. And the other C is change. Books, tons of books have been written on change, how to do change management, how to, like we did in the COVID, right? We started from various measures, including lack of oxygen to surplus of oxygen. I will not go into the political details, but we did see a lot of changes, and a lot of handlings could have been done better. It's actually very easy to say in hindsight, things could have been done better. But the person who is acting, the kind of disinformation, lack of information, partial information, confusing information is available, and she has to take a decision. A decision gets taken, and sometimes it is wrong. So that apart, change becomes the only constant in life. And as BCM professionals, we have to be very alive, because we talked about, hacking, etc., cyber security. This is a game of thief and police. It will go on. as we get more digitized, more AI use, etc., there will be more hacking and more easy ways of inflicting damage on the human beings. So we need to be very, very agile, and we have to be alive to what changes and adopt as we go along. It cannot be one template for all. And last one is trust. This is a very passionate topic for me. It's very easy to say, trust me, but I don't trust you. An audit is not lack of trust. An audit is acknowledging that despite the best written processes, despite the best written intentions, things may go wrong because of communication gap. An audit actually goes into searching for what can be improved. If audit is taken as a penal measure, then it loses its value and its objectivity. So in the trust, if you have trust in your team, in your organization, in your environment, a lot of time gets saved. And how simple example, Harsha makes a phone call to me and says, we have a program at 11:30 on Saturday. If I don't trust him, and if my time is valuable, I would say, send me a mail, send me an invite, and then I'll go into all kinds of bureaucratic procedures. But if I have complete trust in him, then I'll tell him, yes, I'm available. Let me know maybe an hour in advance if you are changing your plan. But if I know that he changes his plans every now and then, I'll ask him to commit. So that asking him to commit becomes a tedious process. It can be a task which is to be avoided, which can save time. And while writing, Harsha may write something which is not conducive, so it will again lead to a mail chain. I'm very sure when I'm giving this, ordinary example, you all are thinking about something which has happened in your workplace, and where the lack of trust has given rise to hundreds of emails between various people. So I know that, and I trust that you'll bring in some element of trust in your workplace and in your family life, in your neighborhood. And last but not the least, I would like to say that since BCM is now taken as a social impact, BCM having a social impact, please think about the humans in any disaster. Think about the humans who have lost their livelihood, who have lost their enthusiasm, who have lost their mental balance. We need to ensure that they are looked after. People who have got displaced. Lucky for us that April, May, June, 2 years back, we did not have mass arson and violence by people returning to their states. But if we are pushed to the wall, we don't have anything to eat, we will kill. Killing to feed ourselves is, in any culture, is valid, and they will kill. And life will become completely disorganized, unsocial. There will be complete anarchy. So think about it, and whenever we, as BCM professional, we are doing something, keep those high principles in mind and trust people, be agile, be alive. That's all from me here, Harsha.
Thank you, Commander Pradeep. I just want to say, the magnificent Major General, using the first alphabet of his name, zeal of Zal Tantra, and the power of Pradeep for partnership as communicated to all of us, and trust. It comes to a turn for the challenger of the time, that is Mr. Chandrasekharan, to take charge now and speak about what he has to tell us about what is the future of business continuity that he has in store to share with all of us. Thank you, Pradeep.
Thank you, Dr. Harsha. Thanks, Dheeraj, for having given this opportunity to share my thoughts with such an elite group on what dimensions the future of business continuity could take us into. As I speak to you, I'm reminded of those days in 2007 when I underwent the training on BS 25999 from BSI. And the way one looked at the standard, the way one looked at what were the problems, what was being talked about, it looked also distant. And today we are talking of business continuity as if, you know, we have been with it all along. So that's a very happy thing to say. Now, the one point that I have been constantly noting is that, you know, I have always been thinking what more could be done in business continuity, where else it would lead us, and so on. Now, supply chains, etc., these have been traditional parts of the business also, and they will continue to be important. However, the preponderance of business continuity has been more on risks. So we have been focusing on risks, on identifying risks, on analyzing risks, on treating risks, and making sure that we become more and more resilient. So if you look at resilience, it really calls for two things. One is it's a reactive control, that something went wrong and you fixed it. The other one is positive and proactive. That yes, something did happen, something did go off, and you know, I am in a position where I can now talk of how to prevent some of those things. So the preventive aspects. But then there is one more thing which is coming to light. And especially after the Chennai floods of 2015, if you notice all the major events that have taken place, first of all, there has never been a clean break from the events of disruption. They are still around to threaten us. They are still around to raise worries in our minds. And it's something which has changed certain things forever. Now look at the pandemic. Who would have thought that for 2 years we would have been so bottled up as COVID did to us? And the other thing is, it's still not known when it will end, if it will end, and what forms it would take. Now, let's come to the more recent event of this Ukraine war. What my instinct tells me is that this is going to unleash a lot of changes. And the problem that we are going to face is going to be a constant shift in problems themselves. One problem will die down, but another would start and another would start and so on. A lot of uncertainty will be spawned and we won't be having answers to many of them. So quite a lot of, incident management, crisis management, this is going to occupy a lot of our time. But can we look beyond this? There's one more thing that we must understand, and that is we get a lot of opportunities. Just look at what happened to the PPE kits. We were trying to import substandard kits from elsewhere just because we didn't have enough kits to even protect our medical practitioners and helpers. From there, look at the phenomenal pace at which we transformed ourselves and killed that shortage of PPE kits. Look at also the phenomenal pace at which oxygen was made available. So these are some of the things which should give us a lot of courage for the future, and also a lesson. The lesson is, it is A for agility. If you are not agile, if you don't respond to opportunities, if you don't explore and exploit opportunities, you are not going to be there. That's as plain as anything else. So how are we going to get this going? So one of the things that is coming to my mind is that this discipline of what is known as opportunity planning has to come in a big way, and it has to be one of the, it has to get integrated with business continuity management system. Now, what is opportunity planning? If you look at the Gartners and all the management sites, they will tell you that it's a strategy for finding out what is good for the customer, what the customer would want, what is the product you would come out with, and how will you make it available in the marketplace, and so on. But then we have one wonderful concept in the ISO 22301 standard, which talks about the needs and expectations of interested parties. Is the customer the only interested party? Isn't the supplier interested party? Aren't our partners equally interested? Aren't our employees interested? Therefore, the concept of opportunity planning will have to embrace all these other entities, like all the other interested parties which would contribute, and so on. And once you talk of opportunities, there will be very short windows. You have to be agile to exploit it in the right time. And the other thing is, it's also going to throw up risks. Therefore, risk management is something which has to become stronger and stronger. It is said that as a mother of robust children needs to become stronger as they grow, because she needs to be able to control them. In a similar way, risk management will have to take care of not only the business continuity, but also looking at opportunities. And one more very important thing which we cannot lose sight of is sustainability. While we talk of business continuity, while we talk of disruptions and so on, one thing which we must painfully realize is that every disruption is also causing some amount of wastage and possibly expenditure on, or rather expense of certain resources which are non-renewable, resources which will become scarce. And what is the world going to come to maybe in another 5 years' time? A lot of people are already predicting woeful shortage of water. So we need to factor in sustainability in all our ventures. And this has to become as much a part of life as we talk of risks, as we talk of continuity. Continuity for what? If you are going to deplete the planet much faster with your continuity, then it's probably better not to have it. I'm a little passionate about it because I see a lot of wastage around. In fact, this morning when I was having my shower, I was just thanking God in my mind that God, thank you for having given me this luxury of having a shower. God knows in the years to come whether anybody would be able to afford this, and much less my own, children, grandchildren, and so on. So sustainability, we have the opportunity, then we have the business continuity, and we have to have the entire thing bridged together with a strong risk management regime. Overall, underlying important thing is we need to have agility. We cannot afford to be bureaucratic. We cannot afford to have long-winded processes. We cannot afford to have, this is also a lesson for legal and regulatory authorities. They need to be very agile and very aware of what will be the implications of various kinds of laws and regulations. And that goes for our political leadership also, because geopolitics is here to stay and it's going to create a lot of hurdles in our way. So while we see a lot of storm clouds gathering on the horizon, we must also look at the issues of how we can tackle this. And I would like to end with a quotation from Charles Darwin. Charles Darwin, who talked about evolution, said that it is not the strongest species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but the most responsive to change. And change is going to be constant, and that's where our challenges come. We need to come together much more as human beings rather than as divisive forces. So with that, I would end here. If there are any questions, I would like to take them.
Yes, so thank you very much, Mr. Chandrasekharan. This has been a very nice ending note for the first panel. So we looked at sustainability, we looked at agility, we looked at adverse weather, supply chain aspects, COVID impacts on various attributes, which we also understood. We also looked at the most important and the most primary element of human aspects of business continuity. So this has been a great session, and the panel, along with the experienced panel members who have contributed towards this entire thing. I would just like to say that it has been not only enlightening, but it has been a situation to give the entire community a new direction and a new dimension of looking at business continuity from today. And this is a great session by all of you. Thank you very much, everyone. As we move on to the next panel discussion, which contains business continuity in manufacturing, in the IT resilience of the Indian Railways, as well as continuity and practices which are implemented in the credit trading industry, as well as the sophisticated artificial intelligence in point tools for business continuity and crisis management. So this panel will consist of Binay Kumar. It will consist of Ankit, who will speak on the manufacturing piece. We'll have Dr. Nagaraj speaking about the credit trading perspective. Vijay from the Indian Railways to speak about ICT resilience in the Indian Railways. And of course, we have Stephen, who will speak on the AI platform for point tools for mass communication. So I welcome each and every individual here on the panel to join up and come up, as we start off with Binay Kumar to speak about business continuity in manufacturing to start off. Over to you, Binay.
Yes, thank you. So, hope I'm audible.
Yes, you are audible.
Thank you. So, good afternoon, all, and myself Binay Kumar, and I'm really thankful to the panel member and the team from the court given this opportunity to present here myself in this particular forum. So, I'm basically a professional of related to safety. So, industrial safety, you all know that how critical it is. And when we link this safety activity with the business continuity, so you will actually understand the concept behind of that, what basically the scenarios which we discuss under the safety aspect of that. So safety aspect is like that when industry is operating, so there are various natures of the scenarios which can impact to the industry, and that can be a several factors for the industry, and probably it can become a catastrophic also. So basically it will lead to some sort of emergency situation in the company. So what basically the safety professional do, they proactively identify the scenarios which basically can put industry into the trouble. And on that basis, they try to understand if it is going to be continued, how it will be impacting to the company in terms of the reputation, in terms of the revenue, and some other aspect of that. So what I'm talking here about that, there's a very much linkage with that related to the safety aspect which we are identifying every day when we talk about the business continuity. So I was referring with that, the business continuity linked with that safety management system. As I said that under the safety management systems, the lot of scenarios every day we identified. And some of the scenarios are very critical in the natures, which we call the critical scenarios. And for that, industry is having different sort of planning in place, and whenever that particular things will happen, so that controls will take care of that. So similarly, when
absolutely, yeah.
So similarly, when we are linking this aspect with the business continuity, So let me read that what 22301 talks about that. It says the capability of the organization to deliver the product or the services as a predefined level in case of adverse condition. So it talks about that whenever that any sort of adverse conditions would be there, how the industry is going to continue deliver the product or the services. So it basically talking about that the adverse situations. So adverse situation can be natural or the different also. So when we go in depth of that the function of the company like supply chain. So supply chain, we all know that there's no direct controls on that. So we need to go in depth of that, how that external factors can impact on the company continuity. So the requirement is here to have a comprehensive overviews on understanding of the scenarios which can impact in the serious matter of the company in terms of three important factors. One is the revenue factor, second is reputation factor, and third is that regulatory factor. So by which the company need to do that assessment, and that assessment is called business impact assessment. So under this business impact assessment, they need to have the comprehensive analysis of all the scenarios in terms of the business continuity. So it cannot be just linked with the IT department of the company. So if there is a functions which is called HR functions, how they can feel the issues related to the manpower. If there are finance issues, the finance is there, what are the things which can impact from the finance side? So likewise, all the function is having some sort of scenarios which is very much linked with the reputation, regulation, or revenue part of that. So when the BI is being done by the company people, they have to consider all these factors, and accordingly they have to look at that what is their current situation to control that. And then what should be, one thing is that what the current systems they have and what should be look like that, and then they will come out with the gap assessment. So it is a basically a concept where the organization need to understand the as is condition, as desired conditions, as a gap point of view. Once this activity will be understood properly, then I think business impact assessment can be done truly for all the department. It need to organized in the way where that company will see any sort of scenarios which is going to be life threatening concerns of the company, where the survival become a questions mark. So on that times, this particular plan is going to help them. So when any company is preparing the business continuity, they are preparing in line with that what severe things can happen in the future, because whatever the issues they are facing on the daily basis, they have some system in place. If we go to any of the company, if you ask the supply chain, are you not facing any issues? They will tell you that every day they are facing a lot of challenges, that their supplier is not able to supply because their one critical machine has gone to the breakdown. But there are some process in place by which they are managing that continuity of that. But when we are discussing the business continuity, it means it will be complete showstopper, that there will be no supply of the product. On that scenarios, what you are going to survive. So survival's point of view, the business continuity need to be mapped. So it's not like that the business continuity plan which has been prepared will be going to use on the daily issues. It will be basically a concerns when the concerns will be like the complete stoppage of the business. So on that basis, the company need to basically work on the business continuity. I have implemented this business continuity programs in my one of previous company. That was a chemical company, and across India they have 4 to 5 factory, and supply chain was basically a major concern. So on that we gone in depth of that, how the supply chain can get impacted the business point of view, and then business continuity process was implemented, and that all the RTO factor, MBCO, and other basically terminologies of 2230 was implemented. And I would tell you that in some of the scenarios when exactly that happened, so a script was written, the scenario was already written, a script was written, and they were able to immediately manage that particular things very quickly. So the recovery time was very fast. So in the similar way, I learned that, and in the recent company, we decided to go for business continuity plan. We engaged the core team. We work around 6 to 7 months to do the framework part of the business continuity. We engaged our around 7 to 8 department in that. we made, I think, aware that our entire team how to basically go in depth of to do the business impact assessment, risk assessment, and I would say that after 1 year, now we are in the positions where we are able to predict that the scenarios which is happening currently, like one of the panel member was talking that Shanghai issues of that, but we have very clear cut program in place, and that is script is there, the strategies is there, plan of actions item is there, so now they are used to for this. And when I just said that 22301 or any of the ISO standard is a continual journey which industry need to understand, improve every day. So it's a kind of, it's lot of scopes of learnings are there. So I'm still learning after working in this field from last 5 to 6 years. And I would say that the business continuity should not be just limited to the IT industry. It should be implemented for all the manufacturing industry because it is need of the industries. The emergency or unforeseen condition can impact to any of the companies. And for that, how they are going to deliver the product, how they are going to continue the services, this all need to put into the place, and that document will look like the business impact assessment, risk assessment, we need to train that entire team, need to practice this every day. So it is a value addition to the entire business. If any company is thinking that nothing will happen, then it is a concern because we cannot predict the future. But yes, by the past experience, and we can learn from that, and then we can develop something, and at least the business continuity all talks about that minimum business continuity objective. So when that crisis will happen, the company will not continue with 100% efficiency. There will be efficiency of 40 to 50% because it is a matter of survival. So for that, you are going to design a program. So it required a lot of efforts from the senior management, every level, because ISO standard is just giving you guideline. But exactly when people going to implement it at the manufacturing side, the huge challenge comes in the picture. Similarly, when they're implementing in IT infrastructure, it is a service point of view. They can design something without having too much of complication. But implementation of 22301 or the business continuity management system in a large company where you have the across the globe business and context is very high, it will be a challenge. But believe me, it helps organizations, but because terminology talks about that it is not emergency plan. Many people get confused with the business continuity with the emergency plan. Yes, we have a fire emergency plan, we have flood emergency plan, but that's basically not the business continuity. It actually talks about that when there will be fire in your business, when there will be flood kind of situation, when the pandemic will be there. So you have already commitment to the customer, which you have already committed. So will you be able to deliver the product or not? Will you be able to deliver your service or not? For that, what the strategies you will have? The customer is not going to listen your problems. If this is the condition today, you don't have manpower, you have some legal issues, you have some other issues. So basically, it's all together talks about that the delivery of the product, delivery of the services in line with that your predefined levels. It means it required the complete different thought process beyond that the scenarios which you have identified in terms of your in terms of emergency situations. So when we started practicing, so now the people have the realizations of that it takes in a different angles to look at that, and where the involvement is required from every angles to look at the business continuity different aspect. We are really to the core team to support in this journey. So yeah, sir.
Yeah, okay. So in light of time and the other panelists who need to also speak, I would only like to say that our audience as well as other panelists have understood that business continuity is not only for IT, it is also for manufacturing sectors, and you have brought that in light excellently in your narration and provided examples to us. We are now moving on to our next panelist, Ankit Sabharwal, who will let us know as to how he has implemented business continuity in his organization or in his practices. So over to you, Ankit.
Thank you so much, Harsha. Thank you so much, Dheeraj, and very good afternoon to all the esteemed panelists here. It's wonderful to be here and be part of this India Continuity Forum. Talking about manufacturing related BCMS, I'm going to particularly dwell on some of the experiences I had with when I delivered the pilot program for BS25999 at that stage for one of the largest handset manufacturers, which is now making a resurgence as Nokia. So this was implemented for the largest factory and then later on replicated onto their other parts of the demand supply network management. So as Binay talked about, I think it's first of all, I think it's a misnomer that manufacturing does not require business continuity. I think it's very much the case. Just like any other industry, manufacturing can derive immense value out of business continuity. Having said that, typically when you go out into the market, you see a lot of replicable strategies, a lot of replicable information across other more heavily regulated and governed industries, which makes it somewhat easier to benchmark, which makes it somewhat easier to replicate things, but that doesn't mean that one should stop and not implement that. So I'm going to talk today very quickly about some 6 or 7 key areas that I thought were very relevant in our journey, and I hope those could be of some relevance to the panel here. So first of all, I think talking about India as a focus area, and I think we've seen over the past 6 to 7 years, India is now kind of creating the opportunities not just for the entire manufacturing, manufacturing systems, but a larger ecosystem around manufacturing. And one of the greater examples of that is around the entire supply chain. So one of my key lessons was that supply chain is paramount to the entire success of your manufacturing efforts, including your business continuity efforts, and that no manufacturing facility runs in isolation, just like no other business runs in isolation. However, in the case of manufacturing, because typically manufacturing is very, very specialized, and when we think about supply chains, when we think about manufacturing lines, we think about a lot of things like, okay, this can be done, this is just a production line. But when you get into the nitty-gritty of it, you realize there is a lot of implementation of specific machinery, of specific know-how that requires a lot of time and effort and switchover effort also. So it's not so quick, and as a result, one needs to go into it with a little bit of understanding on how to do it. So the first thing that I realized during my journey was that we need to develop unorthodox solutions when it comes to manufacturing related BCMS. And this is more particularly around the entire recovery strategies. The typical elements of the BI, RA and everything else would work to a large extent. But when it comes to recovery strategies, not everybody can afford to have a warm side, a cold side, reciprocal agreement, etc., which is typically taught in the textbook approach, right? So we need to first of all understand what ecosystem are we operating in. That could be a localized ecosystem within the same city, within a very small group. It could be within a particular special economic zone that you're a part of. It could be, that you're just specific to a very, very niche area only where that manufacturing can take place, because there are certain kind of manufacturing which require a certain amount of soil, a certain kind of water, a certain kind of environment, and so on and so forth, right? So I think that's first thing that one needs to look at. The other thing that I realized very early on is that if we had made ourselves wonderfully good on business continuity management, we had gotten ourselves certified, it would not really make any difference until the weakest cog in the chain was actually also looked at. So one needs to very quickly look at the entire supply chain, and I heard about the second party, third party, fourth party approach, and I think I completely second that, because it's going to be a journey, even for your suppliers, even for your strategic suppliers, to come up the curve and understand and embrace the elements of business continuity. A very good effort has been done in that area, I think, also by supply chain security standards like TAPA earlier on, the Transported Assets Protection Association, and now the ISO 228K, which is standardizing a lot of these things in this area. So I think those are very complementary concepts, and as you start making first certain elements of, if you need to work with us, you start conforming to some of these standards, and later on, as you start pushing for certification, if you've got some strategic suppliers, I think that's going to be very, very relevant. The other thing I realize, especially with the supply chain and the ecosystem, is the simpler the better. So while they would have very big complicated business continuity plans of their own, I think what also needs to make sense for them is how quickly can they execute that plan for you. And I think that was of a lot of benefit to us, because we had 6 ecosystem partners within the same half a kilometer radius, and then many others within India. The other thing I wanted to talk about is how manufacturing is undergoing a sea of change, right? So we are bringing a lot of investments in India, especially around semiconductors, around high-end mobile manufacturing, high-end electronics manufacturing, right? And as of now, you see that maybe certain players are taking the plunge, the Apples of the world and so on. But there is a larger hesitancy, and that actually comes in from the supply chain, which are typically focused in the eastern side of the globe, right? So I think where we also need to look at that and say, okay, what can we really benefit from, as we are undergoing this transformation? How can I be a part of that journey, right? And so that could even be that we are actually starting with something of a fringe. It could be something like contract manufacturing, which could also be a viable strategy, just to utilize any unutilized capacity that you have, or anything else that you could use to maximize your returns on the equipment and the manpower that you put in. The other thing we are seeing, and which is very worthwhile understanding, is how there are strategic investments being put not in manufacturing, but in fact in the raw materials in the supply chain itself. And that's for sure. Thank you for that, Dheeraj. Is this better? And I hope that I'm a little louder to hear now. Right. So
Yeah, absolutely, you're louder.
Thank you, Harsha. So strategic investments are coming in not just to protect one's investments, but also to ensure that the entire supply chain is quite secure. And I think the semiconductor example that I'll go back to. So at this point in time, the after effects being witnessed not just in automobiles, but across many other industries. And we saw that during COVID, when laptops, desktops kind of flew off the shelf. And as a result, it just became that much paramount to say, okay, where am I going to place some of my bets? Am I going to do some backwards integration or forwards integration, which is going to be relevant for me? The third part I wanted to talk about is that the critical paths don't always work how we traditionally see it in the. Thanks, Harsha. Yes, they don't definitely work. We need to be very, very granular. We need to be extremely clear in terms of certain challenges that we will foresee. And this is also connecting into the fourth element, which is around proactive threat monitoring. Now, one might think that only IT and telecom and banking benefits from it, but from my perspective, I saw that not only the non-traditional scenarios, but even the traditional scenarios of threats were actually very, very relevant because of certain kind of flood situations in and around Chennai area, also other weather events. And then since I'm running out of time, I'm just going to quickly touch upon the fact that we cannot avoid the societal impact of business continuity, especially in manufacturing, because whether you have equipment or not, you're definitely going to have manpower. And so talking about the labor conditions, talking about the environmental conditions, the CSR and sustainability becomes a very critical area. Most companies usually have one or more ISO systems, 9,000, 14,000, 45,000 and so on. But then it also is very, very relevant to remember that when you have labor involved, you need to have a labor continuity plan as well. And this is also something that we saw firsthand coming into the picture. I think since we are running out of time, I'll just kind of wrap it up there and say a couple of other things are around warehousing. And when we look at supply chain, we traditionally don't think of warehousing as much, but that also brings up a lot of benefits, a lot of buffers, and a lot of things that we can look at. And finally, I think the last point I'm going to leave it with is that everyone talks about the demonstration of ROI. So in a manufacturing setup, the ROI can be derived in multiple ways: in getting new customers, deeper integration with our existing customers who are ready to invest in our own success. The value is derived from becoming a preferred supplier in a lot of cases, or a preferred manufacturer, as we are seeing with Foxconn and Wistrom, for example, in India. And then also the insurance levels and costs usually come down quite a lot, and it also will help you in many other areas of your entire running. So with that, thank you so much for the time, and Harsha, back to you.
Thank you very much, Ankit. It was very nice of you to give us a crisp but a wonderful insight on the manufacturing side. I would like to invite Vijay Devnath, who will speak to us about ICT resilience in the Indian Railways. So over to you, Vijay, for the next 5 minutes, please.
Hi, good afternoon. Now, it's a long time and a lot of concepts and business continuity issues have already been discussed both by army, ex-army officers who manage disasters in the field, and of course from the manufacturing and logistics sectors regarding business continuity. I, being from the railways, naturally I will talk from my experience in the railways, and also limiting myself to the business continuity in the ICT world, because talking about other areas of railways is not my domain as such as of now. Earlier it used to be. So what I feel is I'm making some general conceptual statements, is that as somebody has already said in this discussion, that currently the auditors of any kind, whether it is financial auditors or the infrastructure auditors or IT auditors, they are all looked upon, if not like enemies, they are at least looked upon as necessary evil. इनको झेलना ही है, and the moment somehow we cover up most of the audited points, we forget about it and go about the business. Only time we focus back on the audited results or the pointers is when a disaster strikes or our business is down because of some issue in the physical or IT or somewhere else. Otherwise, when the business is going on fine, we are mostly focused on our departments, my work, sales, marketing, operations, IT, then power and cooling and everything all are in silos. What I feel is now it is the time that when IT, OT, ICS, everything is getting together into the business, and the business is becoming increasingly dependent on all these technologies, which sometimes do not have an alternative, local alternative. They need to have alternatives across the borders, which are also becoming very dicey. We need to take a cohesive approach of business continuity. All of us should, all the departments concerned should sit together and take a periodic look at what we are doing about business continuity. Not only wait for the auditors to come in and then point out some mistakes, and then we fill those mistakes somehow or accept those risks and then go further ahead, okay with the business. I think that now, other than financial institutions, the regulated financial institutions, we should be having chief risk officers or chief data protection officers in all the industries across, including, I will say, in railways or all other industries as well. Because you need an independent person within your organization to continuously look at your practices where you are, putting the risk under the carpet and then jumping over it and going ahead with your business. Many of the initiatives we find is that the capex is always invested in, itna paisa lagega or itna infrastructure banega, but we do not invest in the operation and maintenance of that capex in the years ahead, because any system which you put can have to work for say 10 years, 20 years, and it degrades also with time. All systems, whether IT, ICS, OT, IoT, it degrades. We need to replace certain systems. Sometimes replacements are not available in the supply chain. You have to put alternatives, or you have to undergo a complete technology change. All these things are supposed to be looked on by somebody who may be a chief risk officer, or because CISOs and chief safety officers, they have become a usual fixture, and nobody is giving credence to their issues or whatever they are pointing out. But what I find is IT is becoming too integral into your business, in anybody's business today, not only the financial institutions. It is becoming a part of the bread and butter, in even in a logistics sector like railways, or other logistics sectors like airlines, road, and all that. And we need to take business continuity and business resilience seriously. Maybe it is high time we put them into a sort of a law passed by the parliament, where the business continuity planning should be part of the business goals of the CEO or the board, as it is in the case of financial institutions which are covered by RBI, where if they don't comply, their licenses can be cancelled, or their businesses can be controlled or temporarily suspended, as it has happened, I think, last year with one of the biggest financial institution, who are asked to stop issuing new cards by the regulator. So,
Vijay, so with this,
why?
Vijay, with this, do you want to make one final point so that we can go off to the next speaker, please?
Yeah, I will request if anybody who is in the policy making position to impose these business continuity concepts, or as a policy measure, onto all the other industries, not only the financial industry alone. That is my request.
Very good. So we get the perspective of bringing in an institutionalized governance across the country, which is a very nice aspect. Now, I would like to invite Stephen for providing us insights on the AI platform for crisis management. And I'll just request him to have the next 2 or 3 minutes for providing that insight. Thanks.
Sure, Dheeraj. Thanks to Dheeraj and everyone for organizing this amazing event. So there were valuable inputs across various leaders who represented various organizations. So with all these challenges that people spoke about right today, how critical events are unpredictable, and the number and magnitude of external shocks are actually high, and it is actually growing. I wanted to share with you only 2 aspects. How today business leaders are becoming accountable for managing unforeseeable critical events, which are apparent in day-to-day operations. It could cover employee safety, IT outages, cyber threats, natural disasters, extreme weather, terror attacks, geopolitical crisis, and everything. So the key to managing such incidents, both crisis and day-to-day operation incidents, revolve around making informed decisions and having the visibility to communicate quickly and effectively. So is there any technology that can help these organizations to look at it from all the perspectives of all the challenges that leaders spoke today? So we have a solution called Zappoj, and we are a Make in India solution. We have been there from 2018 onwards. We are already serving about 30 of Fortune 100 customers globally, and a lot of customers in India as well. So our representation here is to share with you why an organization with all these challenges across any industry can look at technology to mitigate all the challenges that leaders spoke about today. One is Zappoj brought in one singular platform to manage all the crisis, incident management, IT event management, staff scheduling, supply chain resilience, and mass notification. So we brought together all the assets of the organization, be it people, be it IoT, machinery, equipment, IT services, supply chain, everything in one particular platform. It is backed up by visual risk intelligence. It provides all the data from 12,000 APIs, giving you a contextual information about any crisis coming from a perimeter perspective. It also helps you to understand the payload of internal IT services as well. and it gives you a complete dashboard. That's the advantage of any organization to look at this technology. And overall, the platform gives contextual information about incidents. And while it also gives information about the incident, it triggers an alert to the right people at the right time when you want to identify an incident, and to the people who are monitoring that incident. It helps you to monitor the incident from end to end. It has a built-in communication system. It also provides analytics about historical incidents. And most importantly, you can create any number of dashboards. You can generate reports for the benefit of the management. You can take these reports to your regulation authorities as well. So, you know, in overall context, I see a lot of challenges where all of you spoke about, and it is our gesture to invite all of you to evaluate our platform. This is not a commercial aspect. This is more of a social thing that we wanted to do. And we have been serving a lot of customers. And this is the only unified critical event management platform today, make in India product. Our solutions are hosted on www.zappos.com. I invite every one of you to evaluate and then see how you can benefit our organization from all the crises that you just spoke about. Thank you once again for this wonderful opportunity to present to you and be part of this wonderful discussion. Thank
Wonderful. Stephen, very well said, just on time and just in case. That is what your platform enables the whole industry to experience. I would just say that people should engage to evaluate and experience the platform is the only thing that I would say from my side. Going off for the last speaker in this panel is Mr. Nagaraj from CRISIL. So I would request him to give 5 points in light of time that would be enabling us from a continuity point of view, and the message that Nagaraj would like to give. 5 points so that we are on time. Nagaraj, over to you.
Thanks very much, Harsha. If you don't mind, in the interest of time, just to keep things on track, I may also jump in if necessary. So over to you, Mr. Nagaraj. As Harsha said, perhaps your experience, and maybe sum it up with 5 key points that you'd like the audience to take away with you. Thank you, sir. Over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Dheeraj, and thanks, Harsha, for the opportunity and for having me here in this event. So I would like to share my experience for the past 2 years, and would briefly sum it up with 5 points on these experiences, which are very important. So as a credit rating agency, if you see, we are very crucial during unstable times, because markets look upon credit rating agencies for views and inputs during unstable times, and pandemic was no exception. And CRISIL, in fact, delivered during these 2 years. So to start off with, let's go back to 2019, the Q4. We do have a reasonable presence in China, where the COVID started off there in 2019, the fourth quarter. And, since our small presence around there, we immediately moved to work from home there. And, we were monitoring the situation there. And in fact, we started preparing ourselves. Now, the challenge was, what is this enemy which we were facing? Okay. And how long this disruption is going to, go on? And there was no definite answers for all these things. So we proactively ensured that we started, discussing with the leadership on this particular situation, which was evolving in China and slowly spreading over to various Southeast Asian countries. And for sure, we felt that even India was, on target for this particular pandemic situation. So we immediately ensured that we moved to, conducting, tests and exercises, where we ensured that people started working from home. We started this, process in, almost March 1st week. That was March 1st week in 2020. And of course, plans are there which would need to achieve the minimum business continuity objectives of various activities or processes. But here we thought, let's move well above the MBCO of each particular process or activities and test out our systems, how well they perform. And, proactively, we, took a decision which sounded a little bit odd at that particular part of time, where we decided, let's move desktops to employees' residences, because not everybody is equipped with laptops. So that was an odd decision many felt at that time, and some of our fellow professionals also at that early period of time. So, but later on, we felt that decision was taken at the right time. These are certain odd decisions I think we need to ensure we take during such situations. Okay, and yes, the challenge was ramping up of the bandwidth of the internet, and the ramping up of the VDIs, VPN, all these things which enable people to work from home. So at that time, people started getting comfortable to work from home, and we ensured the required deliverables were done continuously. And of course, I remember it was in March 24th in 2020 that the lockdown was announced. I remember that. And we were in a comfortable position where, the employees at home had their desktops, and equipped with their internet, Wi-Fi's, and of course, many of them had the laptops also. So these were some of the challenges. So the scanning of the horizon, that's most important, where you keep looking out for events, incidents, or any other risks which are evolving around the globe which may impact us. So those were certain things which was taken care of. And so the asset deliveries, we had challenges. There were challenges where curfew was clamped, and the authorities also were totally not clear about the protocols there. And so the teams concerned ensured that required permissions were taken, and the laptops were distributed to employees. And so we had a smooth sailing, I can say, at least a smooth sailing, because of the proactive measures which we took during the Feb end and March beginning of 2020. But during this process, as the days went on, people also started getting infected with COVID, or the family members. So these were some of the challenges. And of course, people are the most important assets of the organization, because if people's safety is not ensured, then there is no business continuity. So there was a team which was organized to ensure that people are taken care of, hospital admissions, the healthcare facilities were totally overwhelmed, in fact, completely. So the people were taken care of, vaccinations, and then organizing of beds for the employees and their families too. So, and of course there were minor disruptions, because some families fell sick. The areas were declared as containment zones. Certain assets could not be delivered at these locations. These were some of the challenges during that period of time. So overall, this particular 2 years had given a lot of experiences where we should, take a cue from these situations and plan going forward. So these are very, very important incidents and situations. And of course, this is not going to end, I suppose. We are going to see more incidents, more situations coming in future. As one of our speakers had earlier mentioned, the global warming and the the heat during March has impacted the production of wheat in the northwest of our country. So there are going to be many incidents, and every day is going to be a learning where we will need to, take a cue from various incidents and share our experiences. Some of I just want to conclude my session with some few points which I thought which is very important. One is the commitment of the leadership and the overview of the on the business continuity management system. Because if there is no leadership commitment, then we are sure that we are not going to receive any support from the other stakeholders as concerned. And the right and timely and proactive investments in various technology systems and various other infrastructure to support the business continuity during these particular situations. The other thing is the third point is reasonable budgets for the business continuity management, because we need to have trained professionals who manage business continuity management in the organizations. It should not be a part of, it should not be an add-on subject for the departments to manage business continuity management. And the fourth is take odd decisions. There might be certain decisions which will have to be taken, but we may think this decision was not taken by any other organization or any other professionals. So my decision may not suit with another organization. So one plan of an organization would not suit another organization. So those odd decisions need to be taken, and no plan is perfect. So what I would say is, so we need to build our plans, because the situations evolve. There are new experiences and new incidents which we will be facing, which may not have been experienced before. So these new experiences and the gaps which we experience during various situations needs to be closed, and we need to put in solutions together. So as Dheeraj had already told, the leadership of the country has stressed upon ensuring that BCM is brought into every organization, every enterprise. Okay, so same way leadership of all organizations should ensure that BCM is incorporated into the organization, and BCM culture should be brought into every individual in the organizations. And I hope we share our experiences, okay, and ensure that we build resilient organizations and also a resilient India. So with these few words, I just conclude my session. And thanks, Dheeraj and Harsha, for the opportunity provided. Thank you for giving me.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for being very crisp, but giving us the message that it is not only that you can work from home, you also have to work from office. So it brings in the reasons of hybrid operations in business continuity for various industries, which others also can adopt.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nagraj. Wonderfully put. By the way, the slogan that we have chosen to take forward is towards national resilience. So we just want to kind of make it clear that ultimately that's the big goal. And all of us are cogs in kind of playing our part in the big picture, I hope, and helping it get there. Thanks so much, sir, once again. Really appreciate your thoughts and your contribution, and I'm sure the audience enjoyed it a lot.
So with this, we end the second panel discussion. I would like to, thank all of you for engaging with us. And over to you, Dheeraj, for the necessary further sessions that we are having for the day.
Thanks, Harsha. With that, request you, Vineet, to bring your camera on, please. And just like to introduce everyone. Thank you, Vineet. Really appreciate. This is about business continuity, which is something that you know very, very well, given that you spend a lot of time in HCL. Critically, I think what I want to just start with is two quick questions. And I know we have a hard stop at 1:25. So for everyone, we may not have time for questions, but we'll see how it goes. And we need to certainly wind this up by 1:25. Vineet, in your path-breaking book, Employees First, Customer Second, you turned conventional wisdom upside down. Normally, we say customer comes first. And I think you made the very smart point. If the employees are happy and taken care of, then the rest will happen. And that's a lot of what we saw in the other presentations even today. I just like to apply that concept to business continuity. Uh, Importantly, within HCL, how did you manage to get the organization to figure on the important things? And that's really what business continuity says, that do the really, really important things, do them right, do them well, do them fast. And the others that are not so critical can be handled. With that, the organization, even in BAU, is almost doing business continuity because you're focusing on the basics. So how did you get HCL as an organization to really focus on this transformation that you led them through?
So, Dheeraj, thanks, and good afternoon, everybody. I think one of the fundamental mistakes we make while talking about business continuity is the assumption we make that God defines and humans follow. This happened. So let me elaborate that through a story that there was a very rich man. He had a very beautiful house and he called a plumber. And John the plumber reached his house and this rich man started explaining to John the plumber the beautiful decor he had and a Michelangelo painting and how Mahatma Gandhi had come and sat on this chair and Nelson Mandela on that chair. And so he explained each and every nook and corner of the house. And after 1 hour of this passionate story, he looked at John and saying, John, what do you think? And John said, all that is fine, but where the hell is the leak? So I think in our pursuit of getting very excited about our processes, our systems, our definitions, we forget that on the other side of execution are human beings. And if we look at the same problem from a human being context, the human being context looks a little different. We were managing National Stock Exchange and we were managing it remotely. And what used to happen is there were about 100 people in a room watching screens, and for days and days, fortunately, nothing would happen. And to keep them motivated when nothing is happening is very, very difficult. And, from a business continuity point of view, it was very important that they follow a system, they follow a process, and they log in the trouble ticket when it comes, and they do all that stuff. So massive training. But we started having significant attrition into that team, predominantly because there was nothing which was happening. Unfortunately, there was nothing which is happening because the best business continuity is when you don't call upon something to happen. So we tried to find out exactly what is happening, and we found out that there is no sense of purpose for these people in terms of what exactly are we doing. So once we put a ticker up there and saying this is the amount which has been traded, $1 trillion traded, or $1 billion traded in 1 hour, they suddenly saw a purpose. The fact that since nothing has happened, they have been successfully been able to trade $1 trillion in a week or $1 billion in a day. And that sense of purpose completely stopped the attrition level. I think it is very important for us to understand that business continuity or pursuit of following processes is largely driven out of a personal desire to do it, a purpose which meets the objective of your own, an aspiration to get it right, and an ambition that doing this is the right thing, what I want to do at this stage. Now, this would not happen if you follow the traditional management style, which was largely in industrial age, which was very instructional, very managerial, very control-oriented, very process definition. In the digital age, it is very important to understand that no employee works unless the purpose is very clear. And therefore, the whole employee first, customer second idea at HCL came out of three questions in terms of what is the core purpose of HCL's existence? And we manage some very critical infrastructure for critical banks and critical energy systems and critical organizations, and nothing can go wrong. But the core purpose was for us to create a unique differentiation for our customers or a unique experience for our customers. Second is, who is creating that unique difference? The employees. And third, what should the role of managers and management be? It can be nothing but enthusing, encouraging, and enabling the employees to create the unique differentiation. Now, once you understand that in the digital age, that the industrial age management practices are not relevant, and you have to start with infusing, encouraging, enabling the employees and defining purpose for those employees. And that alignment has to be achieved with the objective before you go through systems and processes and an instruction manual, is how employee first, customer second is born. And if you miss that part and straight go into I told you so, and this is the 10 steps, and this is the 11th step, today's generation would not follow. And therefore you would have massive mishaps. Predominantly because they do not align with the purpose of the organization, the purpose of the team, and the purpose of the task given ahead of them. And inverting that organization pyramid at HCL, and Japanese had done it with Kaizen methodology, just-in-time manufacturing, the auto industry transformation. So therefore, when you look at business continuity, unless you understand and have a very clear-cut strategy of how you're going to inspire human beings in doing what is necessary to be done and doing in the speed it needs to be done, unless they are energized and inspired, you would definitely not succeed.
Brilliant. Thank you, Vineet. You put it so well. And moving to the next part, which is Sampark, you obviously managed the same approach very well. So if you can just kind of, and that's fascinating, the way you explained it the last time we met, how Sampark kept going through the lockdown and did almost use that as an opportunity. Fascinating. So maybe just a bit about that. And I know we've got about literally 10 minutes left. So over to you.
So therefore, for the people who do not know Sampark, in 2012-13, I quit as vice chairman of HCL and CEO of HCL to start a foundation with my wife. Today, we work with about 1 lakh government schools in the poorest part of India. And we have 1 crore children in our program. And we leverage design thinking and we leverage innovation to try and ignite the classroom transaction and inspire the teachers through a teacher first program to be able to deliver a 40 to 50% increase in learning outcome in government schools. And we recently have signed up with Niti Aayog to add 119,000 more schools. So we should be, by the end of this year, touching the lives of about 2 crore children. When Kovet came in, as rightly some of you observed, most of the people ran home, and the only difference for them from a strategy point of view was work from home. And work from home was this large business continuity strategy, which everybody talked about and said that because of that and because of the security systems we have said, and we were able to maintain productivity. But design thinking teaches you that, whenever there is a bend in the marketplace or whenever there is an adversity in the environment, you are rowing the boat in a certain speed with significant amount of coordination, and you say left, everybody rows left, you say right, everybody rows right. And when the water turns choppy, you need to get into river rafting. And therefore, river rafting is an opportunity. And it means you need to depart from what you were doing, rowing in the past, and do something completely different. So we said, okay, while COVID is a big threat, schools are closed, children are at home, what potentially can we do which could radically transform and convert this into an opportunity? Now, we don't have time to do all that, but first important thing for all of you to notice is that whenever there is an adversity in the environment, you have to seek opportunity in that environment. To give you a couple of examples, one of the things is that we figured out that one of the challenges we face in education system is lack of involvement of parents. And parents are not involved in the children's education, they're not interested. and 99% of the children go to school for midday meal. Now that the children are at home, can we take the school to the parents despite, whatever adversity it is? So one of the initiatives which came out of this is that, we said, okay, are there loudspeakers in villages? Now there is a mosque, a mandir, or a church in every village. And we said, okay, can we use that loudspeaker to play audio programs? And our entire program, Sampark Smart Shala, is on audio predominantly. There's no electricity in most of these villages. So we said, okay, can Sampark Didi, which is a Sutradhar, start singing rhymes and telling stories and doing all that through the audio of the loudspeaker in that religious center or a community center. Now, the advantage of that is, number one, the children will feel engaged. The second advantage is the parents will start getting educated. There's something like this happening. So we started experimenting, and lo and behold, I wish I could share those photographs. Children started wearing school clothes and sitting outside their house to listen to the loudspeakers with their books. Now, did the learning happen? No. Learning, I'm sure, would not have happened to the extent we want. But suddenly we saw mothers sitting with the children, listening to that and telling them what to do. So we suddenly had a community involvement, and suddenly the panchayat got interested in what exactly is happening. They started asking the teachers started coming to the community center, started teaching children through the loudspeaker of that community. And there was a mega transformation on the kind of interest in education. And suddenly, instead of playing music or religious thing, they were playing stories and they were playing rhyme, and there was a dramatic change. So things like this, there were many initiatives which we took in Sampark Foundation, which did not reduce the learning gap, but which suddenly galvanize the parent community and the Panchayati Raj community to be able to say, hey, education is important, children are important. And every single person was seeing these children step out of the house, in front of the house sitting, and the mother sitting with the children. And that was a transformative experience. And imagine that happening in 10, 20 lakh households. It was a mega experience. So we launched about 7 such initiatives to try and not focus on trying to teach children, but to try and see if we can use the COVID example to transform the mindset of the people who are supporting the children.
Vineet, this is simply amazing. Just listening to you is bringing tears to my eyes. Having done it and achieved it would have meant so much more. And importantly, from your book, the title, The Employees, I guess the other question is, you couldn't do this alone. It was everyone together. And I guess if you can just spend a few minutes on, again, how you got the troops at that level, at the ground level, again, to kind of follow this whole vision and do it with the heart, because that's obviously what it took to make it happen.
One of the things which in Sampark we call our employees sparks. And the reason we call them sparks is because they are, they need to focus on sparking a change. One of the issues which we drive very hard within Sampark is a 2x2, which is effort to impact ratio. So how much effort do you make and what is the kind of impact you create? So instead of telling them these are the 10 things to do, we say every time you make an effort, you see how much impact you're creating. So when this 2x2, when the COVID came in, and these kids, and they are all from, government schools and poor rural communities, they were struggling. So the first thing we said is that we will not allow any employee to go unemployed. So 100% guarantee for all employees, irrespective of the fact the schools are closed, irrespective of the fact that you have actually nothing to do, predominantly because schools are closed. Now that put security in their head. And I said very clearly that irrespective of how long the COVID lasts, 5 years, 10 years, it doesn't matter. You have a secure job and your salary is intact. Now, once that happened, then I put the second request. Now that I have done this, can you come back to me with alternatives of how we will create a larger impact than we have created with the limitation of the kind of efforts you can make? You can't go to school, blah, blah, blah. Now, these 7 initiatives, so they were about 41 ideas. These 7 were culled out of those 41 ideas. And all 7 which were implemented because 1 or 2 of the sparks came up with those ideas. And that is the success of Sampak Foundation, that we have not only inverted the organization pyramid internally, but we participated by teachers first and got teachers involved and crowdsourced all these innovative ideas and then implemented it. And then these 3 lakh teachers joined. You know, it is very important that you understand there are 3 lakh teachers who joined this program. And therefore we could achieve the continuity in the child's mind of the fact that learning is important and transform the parents' mind.
Wow, fantastic. Simply amazing. Touching a lot of lives. I think from my point, Vineet, this has been absolutely awesome. And if we look at the comments in the chat line, this is the pièce de résistance. So thanks very much.
Thank you.
We will just take 1 minute more in case there are any questions, but I've committed to you 125. But this was really, really worth it. So if there are any questions going on, I'm going to count to 3. And so thanks very much, Vineet. You're off the hook.
Thank you.
But this was tremendously inspirational. Not only what you've done, but the fact is, as you said, find the opportunity. And if you can do this in the NGO sector, then anyone else can do this elsewhere. So I think there's a big message out there for all of us.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
so
you. God bless. Take care.
So with that, folks, we are almost at the last session. I did want to just quickly play a few slides. And Arvi, I just saw your comment. Thank you here. Can I have the screen share, please? So I think I will shortly bring on Harsha to wrap up. And Harsha, I still don't have screen share, so why don't you just start? And time permitting, after that, I'll just show a few slides of the PM's announcement at that point in time, just to keep the memory alive. So over to you. And if I have time, great, I'll show that. Otherwise, no issues at all. Thanks very much to everyone.
So Dheeraj, thank you very much. And all the audience as well as the participants and the leaders who spoke. It has been a wonderful day today for everyone to engage. We also saw the government authorities speaking. We also saw individuals who are specialists who engaged. We also engaged with a wonderful closing session from Vineet. So it has just been a day where we have learned much more and everything that is happening within India. So as much as there has been diversity, there has been a uniformity, and the only uniformity is about business continuity and practices that we all need to follow. So let us go back home to our own organizations, our own thought processes, and try to say that it is not about how much, but it is all about how much well you do continuity for your own practices and be more resilient. So just like the clock keeps telling us what is the time, we also need to have a clock which tells us who and what is going to happen at what instance, though we are all having the aspects of uncertainty at all times. So thank you very much, everybody, for being tuned to us. And it has been a great day for the entire community of business continuity for everybody in India. Thanks.
I took the liberty of bringing up the slide just as you were ending. Quickly, just want to quickly flick through this. So again, my thanks to you, Harsha, for really being the kind of key interlocutor to take this whole thing right through with the sessions. Just to quickly remind, and thank you, Arvi, you will recognize that these came from you yesterday. So I thought I'll just play them. So it's the PM obviously asking ministers to prepare business continuity plans. When I was in my youth, there used to be this program, Yes Minister, and normally somewhere they would say, thank you, Prime Minister. And I'm saying exactly that. Thank you, Prime Minister, for actually flagging this off. I like this. This is a high-level BIA. And if you look at the bottom, each ministry has to identify 10 key moves and 10 priority focus areas for action. That's written in the synopsis on the bottom. Hey, I mean, kind of, this is an intuitive, non-professional BIA, but it is a BIA, identify the focus area. So that's interesting. This is, again, from one of the cuttings. It's possibly the PM rolling out this expectation. And there's another one on the same topic with a whole bunch of people, and of course, Mr. Rajnath Singh and others, social distancing. So I think what the PM flagged off at that time, we did want to keep the memory alive, take it forward. And from what we've heard today, it's happening a lot in in large and small pockets where you would not expect it to be happening. And when I teach my courses, I say business continuity is structured common sense. We are not doing anything rocket science. We are just connecting the dots. And when you connect the dots together, guess what? It makes a pretty smart picture. So with that, I'm going to stop screen share. Want to stick to the time. We have about 2 minutes left. Anyone else like to say anything, closing comments? Just feel free to bring on your camera and say what you like. And otherwise, from my side, I'm done. But again, we have 2 minutes to go. So anyone, anything you'd like to say, happy to get your comments, not just on the chat line, but just bring your camera on and love to hear how the day's been.
Hi, Dheeraj. This is Vasudev here. I hope you recognize me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I just try to recall, the good old times, when we first met in 2005, 2006, when the business continuity came out, and we were talking about not just only the after effects and what could go wrong, and nobody ever gave an information or we thought about the continuity of how to get into business as such. I mean, we never discussed about business as such, but as time has moved in, almost a decade, and with the COVID situation, I think everyone, it's not just only a business continuity professional or any people that, it has actually gone into sort of a, in the blood of every person as such. It has actually, in fact, tried to, and I really appreciate, in fact, the things that, which you take over. I do take part in most of your events as such. And I see there is so much of transformation. And today that, people from manufacturing and people from the other folks that, which they have, we were only looking at, IT and IT related industries, because 27,000, when it came in, it talked about business continuity. And there was always a debate that business continuity originated from the information security, which I would rather not state with regard to it. So thank you. And it's a great thing, a lot of people, in fact, gave their opinion and then their thing with regard to it. So thanks a lot. And it's a great thing. And I mean, what you're continuing and what you're trying to do is great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vasu. Good to catch up with you. And we did want to make the point that, I mean, it's not financial service, it's not telecom. It's a whole bunch of other things. Thanks, Vasu, very much. Anyone else? Okay, so I think we have quite a bit on the chat line. Thanks very much. Just crossed 1:30. I'd like to stay on time, so we'll bring this session to a close. And thank you again for giving us your Saturday morning. Dharmesh, great start to a Saturday. That makes it worth for all of us for the effort we put in. So see you all folks soon sometime. Take care, God bless, and let's keep the flag flying. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.